Welcome back. So first off, we're going to talk about vertices. In a hyperbola, vertices are the endpoints of the transverse axis. The transverse axis is the line segment that passes through the center of the hyperbola and intersects the two branches of the hyperbola. The distance between the center and each vertex along the transverse axis is called the semi-major axis of the hyperbola. Here's an example of a hyperbola with the vertices labeled. I've labeled for you -3, 0 and 3, 0 in orange. At the most basic level, the transverse axis gives us the width of the hyperbola. The transverse axis is the line segment that passes through the center of the hyperbola and is perpendicular to the line containing the conjugate axis. It is also the major axis of the hyperbola. The length of the transverse axis is equal to the distance between the two vertices. Here's an example of the hyperbola in purple, with the transverse axis in orange. I've left the vertices for you as well. The transverse axis is along the x-axis, so it extends from x equals -3 to x equals 3. The equation of the transverse axis is y equals 0, and the length is always 2a. The conjugate axis. At the most basic level, the conjugate axis gives us the height of the hyperbola. The conjugate axis is perpendicular to the transverse axis and passes through the center of the hyperbola. It is the minor axis of the hyperbola. The length of the conjugate axis is equal to the distance between the 2 points on the hyperbola where the asymptotes intersect the conjugate axis. Here is the conjugate axis in orange. The conjugate axis is along the y-axis, so it extends from y equals -2 to y equals 2. The equation of the conjugate axis is x equals 0, and the length is 2b. Thank you.